She warned him, "Don't ever put your hands on my daughter again." He promised he wouldn't. For days later, she was dead. This is the heartbreaking story of Sharita Chriswell, a devoted mother whose life was cut short by the man who claimed to love her. On the night of July 5, 2025, a quiet neighborhood in Prince George's County, Maryland was torn apart by an unthinkable act. A husband, who had just promised his mother-in-law that he would never lay hands on his wife again, broke that promise in the most brutal way. At about 3:35 p.m., police rushed to a home in Landover. Inside, they found 29-year-old Sharita Chriswell lying on the floor, her body filled with bullet wounds. Even worse, her 2 young daughters were inside the house, forced to witness the nightmare of losing their mother. What investigators uncovered next made the tragedy even heavier. Just days before, Sharita's husband had been released from prison after choking her. He swore it would never happen again. But this time, she didn't survive. This is the heartbreaking story of Sharita Chriswell. Sharita Chriswell was born on June 6, 1996, in Maryland. From childhood, she stood out. She had a bold personality, a spark that made her unforgettable, and a drive to live life with purpose. Her love for beauty and style showed early. Long before she thought of it as a career, Sharita was already experimenting with makeup and fashion. Friends say she had a way of making any day feel special, with her creativity and her energy that lifted everyone around her. That passion grew into something bigger. She became a talented makeup artist and launched her own brand, Makeup by Heather. What started in her community spread far beyond. Brides trusted her on their wedding day. Professionals relied on her for important moments. Even celebrities like Kay. Michelle turned to Sharita for her artistry. But her clients didn't only see her as a makeup artist. She was a cheerleader, a confidant, and someone who could make anyone feel beautiful and valued. Still, Sharita's proudest role wasn't her career, it was family. She became a devoted mother to 2 daughters, Harmony and Isla, born almost exactly a year apart on December 20th and 21st. She loved the magic of their back-to-back birthdays, turning each celebration into a joyful event filled with balloons, cakes, and laughter. Life as a single mother brought challenges, but Sharita met them head-on. She worked long hours, dedicated to perfecting her craft, all to give her girls the life they deserved. For her, success wasn't about fame. It was about creating joy, stability, and love for her daughters and everyone lucky enough to know her. Sharita wasn't only a talented artist. She was a devoted mother, a loving sister, and a loyal friend. People remembered her as the bright light in any room, someone whose humor and resilience left a lasting mark on everyone she met. But behind the smiles and plans for the future, something darker was building. For nearly 10 years, Sharita had been in a relationship with Harry Lindsay, a 32-year-old man from Landover, Maryland. Together, they raised their daughters. On the surface, they looked like a young couple building a life and a family. But behind closed doors, the truth was far more troubling. Harry had a long history of violence, control, and emotional instability. What started as small arguments over jealousy or money soon exploded into fights that left scars, both seen and unseen. Friends noticed how Sharita sometimes seemed withdrawn after being with him. Family members saw the tension, and over time, bruises became harder to explain away. The signs were clear. His explosive temper, her growing isolation, and a home ruled by fear. Sharita was strong-willed everywhere else in life, but with Harry, her voice often went quiet. Like many caught in abusive relationships, she held on to the hope that things might change. For the sake of her daughters, she wanted to believe Harry would eventually calm down, grow, and be the partner she needed. And at times, Harry fed that hope. After an outburst, he would apologize, promising to do better. But the cycle always repeated. Her loved ones urged her to leave. They saw the danger. But for Sharita, walking away from Harry wasn't simple. He wasn't just her partner, he was the father of her children. The man tied to her life in ways that made escaping far more complicated. Harry wasn't just Sharita's partner. He was the father of her children, the man tied to her vision of building a family. That bond made leaving feel impossible. She was trapped in a cycle of hope, fear, and love, holding on longer than she should have. A decision that would carry devastating consequences. In the early hours of June 16, 2025, that cycle turned violent again. At 4:20 a.m., police received a call about a possible domestic violence incident at an apartment on the 4300 block of 57th Avenue in Bladensburg, Maryland. Officers arrived in just 2 minutes. In the hallway, they came face to face with Harry Lindsay. Inside the apartment, they found Sharita with visible injuries. She told police Harry had thrown her to the floor and choked her until she struggled to breathe. Experts warn that strangulation is one of the strongest indicators of potential homicide in domestic abuse cases. It's more than violence. It's a clear signal of intent to kill. Police didn't hesitate. They arrested Harry on the spot and charged him with first and second-degree assault. He was taken to the Prince George's County Department of Corrections. Sharita was given access to domestic violence resources, connected with counseling, and placed in a lethality assessment program designed to protect victims at the highest risk. Prosecutors pushed hard for Harry to stay behind bars. They knew how dangerous he was. In court, prosecutors laid out the danger clearly. They told the judge that Harry had not only assaulted Sharita, he had strangled her. A direct attempt on her life. They begged the court to hold him without bond, warning that if he was released, Sharita's life would remain in danger. But then came the decision that changed everything. Despite the warnings, the judge granted Harry home detention, monitored only by an ankle bracelet. To Sharita's family, it felt like betrayal. They knew he wasn't just unpredictable. He had already proven he was capable of killing. And soon, he would prove them right. When Harry got out, he called Sharita's mother, Jairus Makid. On that call, he admitted to what he had done, swore he would never hurt Sharita again, and even said he wanted to marry her. Jairus gave him one condition. If you love my daughter, prove it. Don't ever put your hands on her again. Harry apologized. He told her he loved Sharita, loved their children, and promised the violence would stop. But just 4 days later, those promises meant nothing. On July 5, 2025, Sharita and Harry argued again inside an apartment on Stretford Way in Landover. This time, the fight escalated differently. Harry didn't reach for his hands. He reached for a gun. With their 2 daughters still inside the home, Harry pointed the weapon at Sharita and pulled the trigger. Multiple shots struck her in the head and body. The devoted mother, the woman who had built a career with her talent and lived for her children, collapsed to the floor. By the time police arrived, it was too late. Sharita was gone. At 3:35 p.m., officers from Prince George's County responded to the shooting. What they walked into was devastating, yet the most shocking detail was still to come. Sharita lay motionless on the floor, her body riddled with bullets. Officers rushed to secure the home, but the truth was undeniable. 29-year-old Sharita Chriswell was dead. Even more heartbreaking, her 2 little girls, Harmony and Isla, were inside the apartment when their world was shattered forever. News of the killing spread quickly. Family members mourned the unthinkable, struggling to process how Sharita's life was taken by the father of her children, only days after he was released from jail. Detectives searched the apartment and recovered the gun believed to have been used in the murder. Neighbors told police they heard loud arguments just moments before the gunshots, confirming the fight that spiraled into deadly violence. But there was one problem: Harry Lindsay was gone. He fled the scene before officers arrived. Authorities feared what he might do next, launching an immediate manhunt and warning the public he could be armed and dangerous. Within hours, investigators turned to surveillance footage from the Metro Transit Police Department. The cameras revealed Harry's movements after the murder, providing the trail detectives needed to track him down. The timeline was chilling. Less than 3 weeks earlier, Harry had been arrested for choking Sharita so violently she could barely breathe. Prosecutors had begged the court to keep him behind bars, warning that strangulation is one of the clearest red flags for future homicide. But the court placed him on home detention instead. And now, just 4 days after telling Sharita's mother he would change, Harry pulled the trigger. For investigators, the conclusion was inescapable. this tragedy was preventable. By July 6th, the fugitive unit tracked Harry to Capitol Heights, Maryland. He was arrested without incident and taken back to the Prince George's County Department of Corrections. Prosecutors wasted no time. Harry Lindsay was indicted on first- and second-degree murder, along with multiple firearm-related charges. This time, there would be no bond. He would stay behind bars as the case moved forward. But justice wouldn't come quickly, and the fight was far from over. News of Sharita's murder spread through Prince George's County and beyond. What made the case so infuriating was how many warning signs had been ignored. Even County Executive Angela Brooks admitted the system had failed. Prosecutors had pushed hard to keep Harry jailed after the June assault, knowing Sharita's life was in danger. But the court's decision to release him on home detention gave him the chance to do exactly what they feared. The community demanded answers. How could this happen when the red flags were so clear? For Sharita's family, the pain was unbearable. Her mother, Jairus Mackett, recalled her last conversation with Harry. He had begged for forgiveness, promised never to hurt Sharita again, and even said he wanted to marry her. Jairus pushed back. "If you love my daughter, why would you put your hands on her? Don't tell me you love her if you don't mean it." She warned him, never touch her daughter again. For days later, she was mourning her child. Sharita's sister echoed the grief, urging other women never to stay silent about abuse. Her message was clear: speak up, seek help, and never ignore the warning signs. Sharita's family continues to share her story as a warning for others. Her sister spoke directly to women in abusive situations. "I always tell my sisters, my friends, anybody, if you're going through something, find someone you can trust. Don't feel ashamed. Don't stay silent. There are resources out there. Talk to someone. Get help before it's too late." For Sharita's loved ones, the loss is unbearable. They remember her as a devoted mother, a gifted makeup artist, and a woman who deserved so much more than the violence she endured. But the most heartbreaking part of all is the children. Harmony and Isla, just 8 and 9 years old, were inside the apartment when their mother was killed. In an instant, they lost both parents, their mother to gunfire, and their father to a jail cell. Family members vowed to raise the girls with love, but the trauma they witnessed will take years of healing. Still, the family pushes forward, determined to keep Sharita's memory alive, so her daughters never forget the woman she was. Loved ones revealed that Sharita had already begun moving on with her life. She had met someone new, someone who made her happy again. But when Harry realized she was ready to leave him behind, his anger exploded. This wasn't love, it was control. And when he felt that control slipping away, he chose violence. Now, as Harry sits behind bars awaiting trial, prosecutors are preparing their case. It will rely on eyewitness testimony, surveillance footage, and the long, documented history of abuse that led to Sharita's death. The evidence against Harry was overwhelming. A conviction could mean life in prison. But for Sharita's family, no legal outcome would ever be enough. No sentence could bring back their daughter, their sister, their friend. At her funeral, the grief was unbearable. Family and friends gathered to honor a woman remembered for her love, her laughter, and her drive. Photos of Sharita's smiling face filled the room. Her daughters clung to relatives who promised to raise them with the same warmth she gave them. The sorrow wasn't only for Sharita. It was for the future stolen from her and the life her children will never know. Outside the service, sorrow turned to anger. Community members and advocates demanded accountability. How could the system ignore so many red flags? Sharita was the 10th domestic violence homicide in Prince George's County in 2025 alone. Each case followed the same pattern: ignored warnings, pleas for help, and victims left unprotected. Sharita's sister made an emotional plea. She urged women not to stay silent, not to feel ashamed, and not to give abusers second chances. She stressed that leaving can be the difference between life and death. The statistics are sobering. 1 in 4 women in the U.S. will experience severe physical violence from a partner in their lifetime. Experts warn that strangulation, threats to kill, and access to firearms are the 3 deadliest red flags. Sharita's case had all 3, and still she wasn't protected. That is why her story matters. It's not only about a crime, it's about change. It's about making sure victims are heard, believed, and protected before it's too late. Sharita Chriswell's life is a reminder that love should never come with fear, and that protecting victims must be a priority, not an afterthought. Our deepest condolences go out to Sharita's family, her daughters, and everyone who loved her. May they find strength in the midst of this tragedy. What do you think? Should the system have done more to protect Sharita? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story important, please like, share, and subscribe for more true crime stories like this.